They took my child away from me.
Oh, Jesus.
Exactly.
Took my child away from me in handcuffs. Shot him in handcuffs.
A mother's desperate call for justice.
I just want to see this officer that killed my son in handcuffs. I want him to suffer just like how my child suffered.
Friends and family gather mourning the loss of Charles Smith, shot Thursday morning by a police officer.
And it's not fair. It's not fair at all. They have to grow up not knowing who their daddy is. It's not fair. It's not fair.
And it would not be another Zimmerman where Zimmerman got away with killing Trayvon Martin. We would not allow this to happen. Not in this case. No, not in this case.
Rallies were organized to bring the community together for change.
Everybody's just waiting to see if this powder cake is going to explode, but I don't think it's going to explode because everybody's out here in the positive, and we're going to show everybody that we're a community in the positive, and we're going to do the right thing.
Leaders like Dietrich Leggett and Pastor Joe Fincher insist, though, their cause won't become anything like we've seen in the headlines lately.
Why do you think it's important it doesn't turn into another Ferguson?
Because Savannah is a growing city. You know, and we are a family-oriented city, and if it turns into a Ferguson, then the Savannah get a bad light.
Instead of fighting hand-to-hand, we can fight with our minds, and we definitely can fight in prayer.
After the rally, they marched down Augusta Avenue, making their way to the Savannah Chatham Police Department on Lathrop.
We want justice! Justice for who?
Then they gathered again at Augusta Avenue and Eagle Street.
Justice has to be served here in our city so that we can move forward.
And organizers say this won't be the end of their fight.
And we are not going to stop marching until justice is served in this case.
News 3 was there to see the escapade break free, something many thought would not happen yet. After being stranded at sea for about 36 hours, the escapade broke itself free today at about 12:45, using nothing but the power of its own engines and taking advantage of the midday high tide. The escapade needed no help Thursday. Interesting, when just 24 hours before, efforts at an even higher high tide from a tugboat and tow lines were unsuccessful. The Coast Guard believes the biggest difference is the passengers were evacuated, so that helped to lighten the load.
It was still on the sandbar, but with the favorable tide that came in today, did get enough water under the hull of the boat. They were able to use their own propulsion. They were able to get off, get into deeper water, and they were able to navigate back here under their own power and no assistance needed.
The escapade sailed effortlessly under the watch of several Coast Guard vessels, and there were no signs of damage at first check.
3,500 gallons of fuel on board, none of it leaked, no water intrusion to the vessel, no damage as far as we know at this point.
It's now docked at the Bull River Marina, where it left from Wednesday night, and that's where it will stay for the time being.
The water is calm after a busy July 4th holiday weekend.
There were probably several hundred boats up there at River Street.
DNR Sergeant Cindy Miller says with all the crowds, boaters played it safe.
We've seen a little bit of alcohol in the vessels, and it's not against the law to have an open container in a vessel. What we're noticing is more designated drivers, which is a good thing.
The blood alcohol limit for boaters is now 0.08. To make sure boaters are following the laws,
So you're telling me you don't have all your life jackets on board?
DNR will conduct a safety check.
We got a boat up ahead.
When you're out here on the water, you need to make sure you have a life jacket for every single person that's on your boat. And there's also a new requirement for those that are under 13 years old.
Children under 13 are required to wear a PFD while the boat is moving. That includes drifting or idling. If it's anchored, they can take their life jacket off per the law, or if they're in an enclosed cabin.
Sergeant Miller says boaters should also pay attention to idle speed zones. She says that was a factor in the July 4th crash that sent one person to the hospital.
There was a boat accident up around the Isle of Hope area where a vessel struck one of the day markers that was unlit.
Sergeant Miller says it seems the majority of boaters are up to speed on how to have a fun and safe time.
And that looks good. All right, guys, y'all have a good day.
From this computer language,
greet user, system, die out, print line,
comes this translation.
Type here WSAV, and on the next line it says, "Hi WSAV, how are you today?"
11th grade Jenkins High School student Kelton King is taking AP Computer Science and learning all about programming.
When you finish the program, you're like, oh, that's so cool, that's so neat. It's like you're almost talking to the computer, telling it, hey, do this, do that. It's just a lot of fun.
The challenge keeps these students plugged in.
Sometimes it can be a little frustrating if you're missing the parentheses. The whole program will come up with lots and lots of errors.
Teacher Lori Howard says this class can lead to so many different career options in the science, technology, engineering, and math fields.
In the next few years, there will be 2 STEM jobs for every 1 person.
There's even more opportunity for women.
You've got a maid. You can just walk out there and write your own ticket, because we all know that big corporations and that they have to have, you know, that diversity.
One former Jenkins student who is now in college is already seeing the benefits of this class.
It exempted me from my first computer science class, and I got into computer science 2, and I feel like I'm still ahead of the class.
King says he feels like his future is bright.
Plenty job opportunities, from just simple entertainment to like cell phones and TVs, computers. Our lives are becoming more and more technology oriented.
It began as a movie house in the 1930s, serving the soldiers at Fort Screven. Well, now some are working hard to bring the old Tybee Post Theater back to life. News 3's Ian Margall is live on Tybee Island with this community report. Ian?
Russ, it doesn't look like much just now, just a construction project with lots of cement, even some dust. But soon the Tybee Post Theater will be brought back to its former glory.
An eye on things out at Tybee, and joins us now live from the beach. And Matt, how are things looking out there?
You know, as far as the weather goes, absolute perfection. Barely any clouds in the sky, temps in the 70s, but as you mentioned, we do have an elevated risk for rip currents. The waves are up. We have Hurricane Gonzalo about 800 to 900 miles away from shore, but take a look at some of the conditions that we have. The wave heights are up. The surfers are taking advantage of that, and probably the most amount of surfers I've seen across our area in quite some time. A lot of people enjoying the conditions, but let's talk about that elevated risk for rip currents. 100 people killed per year by rip currents, so you want to always take it seriously. Visually, some of the clues you want to look for a channel of choppy water, a difference in the water color. If caught in a rip current, make sure not to fight it. Never swim alone, and if possible, swim near a lifeguard. The best advice, especially on a day like this. Now for a look not only at Gonzalo, but your 7-day forecast.
Well, Russ, we are here, like you said, right off of River Street, right across from the Pavilion, right across from Huey's. Only $16 for those tours you were just mentioning, so why would you not come out here? Because this thing is so cool. 5 of its 6 decks are open for people to see. You can go up the stairs, down the stairs, underneath it, see where they steer it. My favorite fact that we have learned about this whole thing, all of the ropes and rigging you see, more than 6 miles of ropes and rigging, they all have a purpose. Every single one has a purpose, because this 16-person crew that worked their way down here to Savannah, they do everything by themselves, and they had their hands full, and they were certainly busy. Now stay with us, because in just a few minutes, we will take you below deck, give you an idea of how this whole thing was built. This 170-foot model of a cargo ship was built. We'll also show you how it defended itself back in the day from anyone that might try and steal that cargo. Well, Ross, it's actually been less of an assignment, more of just a fun time. This thing is so cool. They're wrapping up their final tours today. It all ends at 6 o'clock today, but don't worry if you missed it today. 10 to 6 tomorrow, all the way through the second. Actually, they will be here 10 to 6. $16 for adults, 11 for kids, and 5 and under gets on here for free. And for anyone 21 and over, tomorrow there will be a party here, Party Like a Pirate, at 7 o'clock, $75, and it is going to be a blast from what they tell me. Now, this has been such a cool experience. You definitely want to come out here and check this out. No one wants to miss this one. Bring your friends, bring your family.